talk now to former Metropolitan Police Superintendent Leroy Logan, who's come in to give us the benefit of his expertise. Leroy, good to see you. Thank you very much for coming in. I mean, funnily enough, a lot of people, some of them even at this station, Julie Hartley-Brewer was one, who said, you know, well, why shouldn't Harry have police protection? You know, he's a public figure. He's got reasonable cause to be concerned. You know, there have been supposedly death threats made to Meghan Markle. His mother, of course, was chased, some would say, to her death by paparazzi photographers. Does he have a case, do you think?
Yeah, I think he's got a good case to put to the courts. It's a pity it's had to go to the courts to get this thing aired once and for all, because it just adds to this psychodrama of, you know, he said, she said, saying, well, you know, you've got it only to blame yourself. But in a lot of ways, if you just do a clear risk assessment, there's a good case for him to have close protection. Yeah,
what's the case? Did they do a case-by-case kind of risk assessment of individuals who come to this country who live overseas, if you like? I mean, presumably, for example, there's supposed to be, I don't think it's been postponed, but Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, is supposed to be coming here at some point. I mean, he brings his own protection, presumably. But would he also get protection from the police? Yeah,
because obviously they're not going to allow his close protection. They normally have firearms with them, so they wouldn't have that. So the parliamentary and diplomatic protection groups and specialist firearms officers will be there to give that sort of protection. But yeah, it's on a case by case, and obviously what they bring with them, and also where they're going. You know, because obviously, if you're going to do, you know, shaking of hands along, you know, public streets and all that sort of thing, then you have a totally security footprint around them to ensure that not only no one gets near the principal person, but also they can spot those who might be known. So there's all sorts of
but I suppose that's
super spotters, etc.
But in a way, that would be his kind of entitlement if he was a member of the royal family, because that's what they do. But for example, if you were, I don't know, Taylor Swift, and you came to do a series of shows in London, and you decided to jump out of your limo in the middle of Hyde Park and start shaking hands with people, the police advice would probably be, that's not a great idea. Get back in a limo, and we're not going to protect you because we can't. And so I put him more in the Taylor Swift category now than I do in the sort of, you know, William and Kate category.
Yeah, but yeah, I suppose it's a question of, well, there's certain places and threats that's been associated with Harry and Meghan that really you have to think there needs to be a permanent assigned unit because of the profile, and of course there's been a lot of threats on high-profile people, including the royal family. You know? So they're not absolved of those sort of things. So of course Harry, I think has got a good question.
So just to go back to what you said before about the police kind of advising or telling, say, visiting royalty or visiting sort of celebrities or visiting politicians. Is it then the police's decision then as to who gets the cover, or is it the Home Office? Well, or is it somewhere else?
Yeah, but that's through the Palace and the Home Office. But you know, you can't stop people from coming, especially if they're a citizen. You know, but you'd have to say, well, listen, don't do certain things, don't go into certain places. We can't guarantee your safety. You have to use a common sense approach and don't put yourself on offer.
Yeah, because the other thing that people say that makes it possible for him to deserve the protection is that he was in the armed forces, he was in Afghanistan. He did, in his book, admit to killing quite a few members of the Taliban, which could make it... Which wasn't the cleverest thing he could have done.
Well, that's the risk level is even higher.
So that goes even higher. And is there not a case to be made? And I'm not on Harry's side at all. I certainly don't want to pay for his security. He's offering to pay for it himself anyway. But given that he was, in that instance, you know, representing his country, and he was actually, you know, under threat possibly from foreign forces, surely while he's here, we should do it.
Yeah, but that case, you know, is a good point, you raising it, because he's now put himself on offer by admitting these things. A lot of people in the forces don't even admit these things, especially in autobiography. And then as a result of that, certain extremists are saying, well, you're on our target. And
let's face it, these are troubled times when it comes to that
absolutely.
Kind of thing.
If you add Gaza and Israel and what's going on there, even on the West Bank in Lebanon, we have got a very hostile world at the moment. And this, again, has to be taken in consideration in terms of Harry and how he's been putting himself in some difficulty,
Right.
even through his autobiography.
And when he first went off to Canada to live, I think it was Vancouver Island or something like that, with Meghan, before he moved to California, there were some sort of Royal Protection Squad people that went with him. I don't know whether they're still with him, but I believe we were paying for those, or his father was paying for them at the beginning. And so what was the precedent for that then?
His father taking care of his child,
Right.
basically. But I suppose, like all good things come to an end.
Right.
And I think, obviously, the biography and the interview with Oprah and all these things have alienated people. And you know, the father's love is, well, don't put yourself on offer anymore.
But is it fair for him to be in charge? I mean, I know he's the king and everything, and I suppose he should be in charge of everything, technically speaking. But, I mean, is it fair for him to be in charge of the deployment of individual Royal Protection Squad people? Because I don't think he should be.
No, he's not. He's not going to be deploying.
But did he sort of tip somebody the wink and say, look, this guy fancy you looking after my son. Would you mind going to Canada for a while?
Well, he might do, but you don't know what happens behind the scenes. But the royal household have their own assets. So if he wants to deploy members of the royal household, the only thing is jurisdiction.
Yes.
And, you know, going into different countries, again,
that's the other thing,
a whole different ballgame.
Because they're not duty-bound to protect him in America, where he is, right? Absolutely. He has to get his own protection.
Yeah.
And similarly, when he came for one of the last court cases he was here for, he was sort of striding out of the car, walking into the court, seemingly without much cover. And I mean, if I'd been a professional kind of protection squad person, I'd go, that doesn't look very safe to me.
Well, especially when it bumps into a cameraman. I mean, it could have been anyone,
exactly.
You know? And yeah,
So is he not a bit cavalier about all this?
Yeah, maybe he has been, but there's only certain. Maybe he's getting extra threats or risks coming to his attention that he just cannot take those those risks anymore. And I hope you know he does be as careful as possible, because I think he's got good reason to apply. I hope the courts will resolve it one way or another to reduce this psychodrama, because we really got other things.
Yeah, because the trouble is people look at him and go, you're just a spoiled brat. But no, I don't think anyone in their right mind wants to see anything terrible happening. And nobody wants to see an instance of an attack of any kind, which could have been prevented if the right protection was there.
Yeah, and it only takes one person.
Yeah. And
they get that opportunity, and, you know, everyone's going to feel bad about it.
Yeah. Well, even things as I suppose, different as Keir Starmer. I mean, I was horrified that some guy was able to get onto the stage of the Labour Party conference and throw glitter over the potentially next Prime Minister.
Exactly.
I'm thinking, what's going on there?
Yeah, I remember when someone was able to give the Prime Minister, was the name? Ex-Home Secretary. Theresa May.
Yeah.
Theresa May gave her a P45, and he was taking his time.
And he walks right up to her.
Straight up to her. And I was thinking, that's the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
It's not.
I mean, I used to work in America, and if you don't anywhere near a president in America, you get shot.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says.
They are going to shoot first, ask questions later.
Yeah. Well, that's what they should be doing, isn't it? I know people say, oh, we don't want people carrying guns in this country. Well, I think in some cases you need to.
No, close protection officers carry arms.
Yeah, absolutely right. Leroy, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed.